I've been working as a delivery van driver since I was 24, and I've had plenty of late-night trips. And of course, some strange experiences too. I used to deliver goods for many kinds of companies. Many times, I had to travel from one end of the country to another to deliver packages to businesses or shops. One afternoon I had to drive from the east side of Nevada all the way to the western border. I had a van full of handmade ceramic items for a small shop. Most of the journey was through wide, lonely highways. Since I started a bit late that day, I knew most of my trip would happen after dark. These highways in the countryside are very straight and have very little traffic at night, so I could drive a little faster than usual. That's why when I saw flashing red lights from a car far ahead, I had to press the brakes quite hard to slow down and stop behind it. It was an old blue Ford Focus, parked just off the road in the dry grass. The hazard lights were on. I stepped out of my van to see if someone needed help. I walked over to the car and knocked on the window, but no one answered. I leaned closer to look inside through the slightly tinted windows. It looked like nobody was sitting inside. I checked all the windows and confirmed the car was empty. Then I stared out at the dark open land around me. The road cut through a quiet field, and I could barely see 20 feet ahead. Still, I felt like doing something good that night, so I returned to my van and pulled out a strong flashlight from under the driver's seat. It was a powerful flashlight that was so bright it hurt to look straight at it. When I switched it on, I suddenly noticed what looked like an old fuel station a bit off the road. Somehow I hadn't seen it before, probably because the whole area around it was just dry soil instead of a paved lot. There were only 2 old fuel pumps. Behind them was a small square building that must have been a tiny convenience store once. It made sense to think that the car's driver had gone into that building. I walked to the front door, which was stuck open, and shined the flashlight inside. It looked like a regular little shop that had been closed for years. It wasn't surprising the place had been abandoned. I called out into the building, saying I was there to help. My voice echoed a little, and it gave me an odd cold feeling. Then I heard something, a shoe or boot scraping against the floor on the far side of the room, behind some dusty old shelves. I called out again, saying I was there to assist if anyone needed help. Just then, I heard a low, rough whisper.
"Get out."
I understood the words clearly, but I couldn't understand why the person would say that. There was also a sound of heavy breathing coming from the far left corner of the store. It was enough to make me panic a bit. As I hurried back outside, I heard something else that confused me for a few seconds. I wasn't even sure if what I heard was real or just my imagination. I ran to my van and dialed 911 because I was too afraid to return inside alone. They asked me for my exact location, but I couldn't say for sure. All I could tell them was that I was beside an old gas station on some highway through the countryside. They told me to stay on the line to help explain where I was. Suddenly, the car that had been parked in front of me started up and raced down the road. I hadn't even seen anyone get in. It was too dark, and I was too focused on my call. I ran back into the building to check again, still talking to the 911 operator. I went to the corner where I'd heard the voice and the breathing, and I froze. There was a fresh puddle of blood on the ground. I didn't want to imagine what had happened. I told the operator that I believed I had just walked into a crime scene. Eventually, the police arrived. They asked for any details I could give: car model, number plate, what I saw or heard. All I could say was, it was a dark blue Ford Focus, probably early 2000s, and I'd heard a man telling me to leave, followed by a woman screaming just before the car sped off. There was no body, but I had a few dark thoughts about what might have happened. I'm sure the police collected blood samples and other evidence, but I couldn't help much more. Sadly, I didn't have a dash cam back then, so I couldn't give the plate number. But the very next week, I installed one in my van. It was one of those moments in life you never forget, and honestly, I still get shivers thinking about it.